And I think it should allow you to make me a moderator. It should, but my name on this is like Almond Blaze, so
Let's see, dude.
which is really unprofessional.
You said Almond Blaze?
Should I?
Let me see something.
Oh, I can see it. Look, sister. It's live.
It is? Oh, wow. Okay.
So it does
Okay.
have it a little smaller.
Okay. All right. Looking. Do I look? Oh, yeah.
See what you look like?
Oh, yeah. I can see me. It is. Okay. Let's see. This forehead is shining. I wonder how. That's what I normally do for work. I wish I could put this on like Facebook, because that's how people will jump on, you know?
So that's why you have to start using StreamYard. You could stream to both at the same time.
Oh. Well, we'll just, I can edit this though, right?
No, it's already live. So what we all this walking around?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I will.
I'm going to mute this. You gonna put a post on Facebook?
Yes.
On YouTube?
Yes. Should I go live on Facebook and say I'm live on YouTube?
You can. Do you
Yeah.
want to stream to both? Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
You could have one on Facebook and one on YouTube.
Oh, I could?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. Hold on. Let me do Facebook. Okay, that's smart. It is. Look at my sister helping me. Okay, so. Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay, I'm not going to be looking at the questions at all then, sister.
I have it.
Okay. Is it 7? All right. Let me see how I need to do this. I wonder to rotate your phone. Oh. Uh-oh. You can't rotate your phone. Okay. Uh-oh. I think I did something wrong on Facebook. Okay.
You can see it.
Yeah, But I'm trying to figure out how to do this one. Okay, I'll just keep it like that. If I'm looking at this one though, I should do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out. I'll probably put it right here.
Tell them that you're live, so you're gonna be.
All right, so. Oh. Am I live on Facebook? Oh, okay. I don't think I'm live on. I think I may be live on Facebook. All right, so hopefully I'm live on both platforms, both Facebook and on YouTube. And so I will just check. Let me have someone do a check for me. And my someone is my other half. Hey, babe, can you do me a favor and make sure I'm live on Facebook? All right. Okay, great. All right. Well, I am so excited to be with you all today. My name is Fashay Halley, and I am looking forward to our discussion that we're going to have tonight. So, I am still trying to figure out the technology piece of this, but I've already shared that with you guys before, so I won't go into that. So, I actually have two uh, platforms up. I have YouTube Live up and I have Facebook Live up, just for those that haven't had an opportunity to go out on YouTube and subscribe and know that we will be having our discussions. So um, I'm excited again about having our discussion tonight, which is going to be over the first chapter in my book, and then just integrating our personal experiences with that as well. And I am going to record this, or this is being recorded on YouTube as well. And so, so let's get started. I just want to first say thank you to those of you that continue to support me, reach out, ask questions, and all of that good stuff. And so, since we don't have too many people on, I am going to still move forward because that's how you have to be when you're trying to make sure you're obedient and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So today, as I said before, we're going to be going over the first chapter in my book, which is titled Intentional Dads. And even though it's titled Intentional Dads, this book is for everyone. It's for all of us who have journeyed just through life with our parents, have been a parent, those of us that have had to experience just different aspects of parenting in our childhood, and then how we've tried to use the things that we've learned that's good in our life, and then learn also from the things that were not so good in our life. So what we want to do is start making a connection. And so these intentional conversations are for discussing all of those things. Okay. All right. So before we get started on chapter 1, I have a couple of questions I want to just put out there to you all. And it's really just a level set on definitions of things, because I believe that most of the time when we're conversing with people, sometimes we may have a different definition or a different exposure to a particular term. And we get into conversations with people and then we don't level set to make sure we're on the same page. And so we end up taking different things away or not being in sync with each other. So the title of today's discussion, intentional conversation, is our healthy and unhealthy exposure to parenting. And so that, just so we're on the same page, when I say our healthy or unhealthy exposure to parenting, I'm speaking both about us when we were children, our exposure from the perspective of being parented, not only by our biological parents, but the co-parent partners. And that could be our grandparents, our aunties, our uncles, different people that stepped in. Also, how we're parenting our children. Again, biological or bonus. I say bonus because, anytime you have someone additional helping you out, or someone additional just period in your life that's kind of guiding and investing in whatever way they can, is still something extra. So bonus is that's the term I use. All right. So with that being said, let's level set on the terms of healthy and unhealthy. So I see a couple of people out there. So I just want to ask you, from your perspective, how would you define unhealthy exposure to parenting? What are some characteristics or some things that are unhealthy? And I know I learned the last time that there's a delay sometimes. So I'll just pause and see if I can get some people to respond and tell me anything that may be unhealthy for a parent to do, or unhealthy for a parent to expose their children to, from your perspective. And I'm going to share my perspective as well. I just don't want to override anyone. Let's see here. I'll give it just a couple of seconds. I don't see anything coming up just yet, so I'll just get us started. So unhealthy to me includes things like giving, okay, all right. Oh, we got Demetrius, all right. Comparison, okay, or overexposure prematurely. Spot on, Demetrius, because I was about to say overexposure as well. Yes. So introducing or sharing something with a child too early, or something that they are not able to emotionally or mentally digest, and that, I think that's unhealthy. All right, Netta, let's see. Behaviors that I've experienced is a conversation down. Yes, so downgrading parents. I absolutely agree with you. I think that is extremely unhealthy, because again, when you start diminishing another person in front of a child, that does it really sways their perspective and their experience. Comparison in terms of favoritism. Spot on. Thank you so much, Demetrius. From my perspective as well, asking your child to do something that will put them at odds with another parent or another parental figure, right? So I think that that is unhealthy exposure, because again, it puts the child in the middle of an adult situation, which they shouldn't be. Some things that are very survival oriented. So I'll share with you guys. I'm going to share a lot about myself, and I hope you all choose to do that as well. And I hope to create a space where you feel comfortable and safe to do that. But some of the times I was asked to do things that that were out of order, and I wasn't supposed to be doing, whether that was lying on behalf of, knowing that my mom was supposed to be at work, or telling them a story that I knew wasn't true when I was a kid, or maybe just doing some other adult things that I was not supposed to be doing. And let me just say it like this. If I did it on my own without my mother's permission, it would have been wrong and I would have been in trouble. But because she permitted it, and she asked me to do it, it was then okay, which caused me a lot of confusion sometimes. And so I think that's unhealthy as well. So let's move to healthy exposure. What are some definitions or different characteristics or elements that you would say healthy parenting includes? Let's see. I know there's again, a delay, so I'll give it a few minutes. Affirmation. Thank you. Yes. I think healthy exposure also can include allowing your child to make a decision on something, but also have their back and support them, right? So it's a different way of affirming them, but it gives them a little more confidence to go in a direction that may not be comfortable for them. Positive feedback, absolutely. My struggle has been communicating with my grandkids why their parents aren't safe to be around without down. Yes, that. So I absolutely agree with you, Netta. There is a balance that you have to have with exposure that's healthy, that may be on the line. And I've experienced this as well, where you have to be honest with children to the degree that they're able to take it in, but not speak down on the individuals that are involved. That's a hard thing to balance. It's not easy, because if you or if you inflate something, then that's another challenge, and that may damage your relationship with them. Creating a safe space to talk about anything. Absolutely. So that's a healthy, it's something that has to be built, but it's a healthy way to give them exposure to parenting and authority figures, and working with authority figures to actually work through their learning and their growth period. Accountability on our part. We're not always right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Even though I normally share with my kids that this is the first time I've ever parented as well. So I'm still learning. And so really just showing them and saying that I'm not always right is an extremely healthy way of exposing them to what people in authority as parents and adults would do if we really take ownership of our stuff. I absolutely agree with you. All right, so I just wanted to level set on some of those things because, humility. Oh, spot on. Thank you, Netta. Because again, if we don't demonstrate to our children and just to people in general what something looks like, then where are they going to get an example from? And so going back to some of the things that have already been shared, as a parent, I share with my kids all the time, I haven't done this before. And so I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm not going to I try not to pacify them. My husband, we try not to pacify it, because they can learn from that as well, even in our, even when it's difficult for us to talk about and difficult for us to own. But again, even in a difficult situation, it can be a healthy way to expose them to a situation. So I just wanted to level set on what healthy and unhealthy was, to make sure we're on the same page. Seems like we are. So what we're going to do now is I want to get into some of the topics that I included in the book, and as it relates to reflections and specific stories that I feel like, or instances that I feel demonstrated for me my unhealthy exposure, and versus my healthy exposure, and then how I came to a place of acknowledging and then trying to heal from some of those different things. And even as we talk about some things and I share personal stories or anecdotes and things, if you have something you want to share, definitely let me know. You can put it in the comment section. I'll do my best to read it. And if I don't get to it this time, I'll definitely make sure I cover it in the next time we're together. But so chapter 1 is titled It's Personal. And I titled this chapter It's Personal because my exposure to fathers and my exposure to mothers, it was for me, and I believe for everyone else, but again, I don't like to speak for people. It really is a personal experience to really look through the lenses of what you've gone through, and to really be able to differentiate what you feel was healthy and what you feel was unhealthy. There sometimes are, again, instances where someone could tell you that was not good for your mom or your dad to do, but you may not view it in the same way because you may have different exposure, you may have different insight and a different connection. But all of our experiences, we should take time to really sit back and reflect and see what did it really mean to me? What did it do to me? How did it impact me? Was it something that I learned from? Was it something that was challenging for me? And really start to bring a voice to whatever you may be thinking or may still have bottled in the inside of you. A lot of people talk about sharing your story. And I think we do need to become better at sharing our story and our experiences. But sometimes it's hard to do that. But hopefully in these intentional conversations, we can actually spark that. And even if you don't do it here, actually initiating it somewhere else will be good. All right. So before I share some of my personal story, and my personal specific, I'm just going to pull out like one example from each, healthy and unhealthy, because we'll be here all night if I tell you guys everything. But all right, before we get started, in the introduction of the book, I ask a couple of questions, and I'm just going to give a few minutes between each, and I just want you to respond if it applies to you. Do you know who your biological dad is? That's the first question. And for each question, I'm going to respond to. All right, buddy. Yes, I agree with you, Netta. All right, so we have people, yes, there are several people that know who their biological father is. I do not know who my biological dad is. That's something that I'll share with you guys later. I'm still on exploring those avenues. Let me just say that for right now. All right. Okay, so your granddaughter doesn't. All right, and that goes to, it's a good segue into the next couple of questions. If you know who your biological dad is, do you have a healthy relationship with him, or did you? Because I know everybody's parents may not still be alive. And that goes for and this is for you specifically. Do you have a healthy relationship with your biological father? All right. And those of you that just jumped on, the question that we have on the floor is, do you know who your if you know who your biological father is, do you have a healthy relationship with him? Yes. Okay, yes, but not okay, cultivated. All right, good deal. And you guys know I'm not going to answer that question, but question 3. Do you know someone who does not know who their biological father is? And you guys, for this one, if you know other people, you can just put yes. If you know a lot, you can do it in all caps if you want to. And on YouTube, I'll try to read off the questions that I have that's coming through on Facebook so that it makes sense. Okay. Yes. All right. I know a ton of people that um that have no idea who their biological father is. I know a lot of people also that still believe a person is their biological father, but it has never been confirmed. It's just something that their mom said, this is your dad, and that's just what is known. But there was no biological connection, or I'm sorry, any verification that said that was their biological. You are biologically connected to them. All right, so let me ask one more question here. Do you know any dad that struggles with being, and you know what, I'm going to extend this. Do you know any dad or mom that struggles with being present and available for their children? And when I say present and available, I'm speaking specifically of physical availability and presence, mental, emotional, spiritual, everything. They go to Maury Povich. You're right. You are the father. This is true. All right. Anybody know? Okay, absolutely. Okay. All right. I know a lot of men, and so as part of this book, and we'll be talking about this as well, I had the pleasure of interviewing men for about 2.5 years, a little bit over 2.5 years, about fatherhood, asking them what their challenges were, their presence, with being present and available, what made them happy, what made them sad, what they struggle with around fatherhood, how women can help them or hinder them in their process. How do we partner? So I asked a lot of questions there, but my point is, I know a lot of people that a lot of men as well as women who struggle, and my mom personally struggled with all of these areas at certain times in life. She struggled with being present, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I'll share a little bit about that in just a second, as well as I think the biggest thing for her is that she didn't know what that looked like. And so for her to then provide that to me was a struggle for her. And so let's just go ahead and segue into that, because this first chapter is all about his personal. But I'll first read one of my favorite quotes because it resonates with me so much. And it's a little paraphrased and personalized, but it says, "My story is filled with broken pieces, terrible experiences, and ugly truths. But it's also filled with major comebacks, meaningful relationships, many blessings, peace in my soul, and a grace that saved my life." And so that's how chapter 1 starts off. And so chapter 1, again, is broken into sections: my healthy exposure, my unhealthy exposure, acknowledging, and then healing. And so let me just share with you from my personal experience. And I guess we can call this, I don't know what we'll call this, but story time, just to connect the dots. And I'll be asking, again, guests and people that will come in and share their experience as well. But so one example of a healthy exposure that I had to parenting. My mother, I think it's important for us to really understand, take a pause and try to understand our parents, because again, whatever they experience will impact us. And that, I didn't really get that until I got older. All right. So I knew my mom and we had a lot of struggles, from us struggling with places to live. Not necessarily because we didn't have family that wouldn't open their doors. It was just a certain situations my mom got entangled in and didn't want to break loose from in some instances, that made it hard for us to actually create stability or really take advantage of the help that was being extended to us. So a lot of times we were homeless. A lot of times we just lived in shelters. A lot of times we were separated from each other. And in addition to that, there was a lot of times where I was my mother's parent. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we'll talk about a word called parentification, which is parent-child role reversal. And so my mom struggled a whole lot with giving healthy exposure, but she did connect with who I thought was my biological father early on. And so for a long time, I thought I knew who my biological father was, which was, he provided a really healthy experience for me. So I'll start with my healthy exposure to parenting. I felt like my dad, Tommy, he was young, but he was very jovial, very a happy person. I always felt joy when I was around him. Even if there was some arguments going on, I just felt like he was very much a positive, optimistic person. He had a large family. They lived in the Valley in Seattle, Washington, and they just had a sense of family unity, it seemed like. Now, I'm not going to say that there was not any struggles or flaws. There were a ton of those, but he just always made me feel, when I was in his presence, even with his wife and his children by his wife, my brother and my sister is what I believe they are to me. He always provided me a very healthy experience when I was growing up. My mother, on the other hand, when she would come into the picture with us, she would create a lot of chaos. And that was from my perspective. I always thought she was very much a fire starter. I loved her, but I knew I was going to, whenever she came in the room, depending on her mood, it would determine whether or not we would have a good night or we would not have a good night. Would we have a place to stay or would we not have a place to stay? Will she be in jail because she was fighting somebody, or would she not be in jail? And that for me was very much, it was definitely unhealthy. But when I had my dad and other parental figures around that had more stability, it kind of outweighed some of what my mom would bring in. The pieces of my mom that was healthy was that she was a fierce protector. She was definitely, I would say, very much a realist. I felt like she didn't lie to me a lot. When even sometimes when she should have lied. Like Demetrius said earlier, I had a lot of different exposure early on. But I mentioned earlier that sometimes you have to pause and think about your parents and think about what they've been through. Now, let me give a caveat real quick and say that, and this is something I learned through the acknowledgement and healing process. Even though my mom has gone through had gone through some things, and people will say she couldn't give you what she didn't have. That is a true statement. However, she had also opportunities to learn how to, and she decided not to, or she rejected that. And so if that is the case, there has to be ownership for that. Same thing with me. With my husband and I, when we're raising our two children, there are some things that we parent from what we've been exposed to and what we've learned. However, that doesn't negate the fact that we still have a responsibility to teach them other things and to really give them other exposure. So we have to learn how to get that from other people or learn how to get that from other places. It's not okay just to say, well, Asia and Jaden, we didn't get exposure to that, so you should give us a pass. I think that there has to be a balance, and that's something that my mom and I were able to come to a resolution around before she passed away, which was a blessing. And so there are, to your point, Ned, there are a lot of strongholds that come into place when it comes to some of the unhealthy aspects of parenting that really dominate their life. But it also has to do with her exposure to parenting. So I'll just tell you really quick, my mom, of course, she had a struggle. She had her exposure to parenting was really rough. Her mom had her when she was in her late 50s. Her brothers were already in the military. My mom went through a lot of different abusive situations, sexually, physically, as a child growing up, and actually being in the foster care system pretty early because her mom had a stroke when she was 9. My mom was pregnant with her first child when she was 12 going on 13. Then she had to get help and give him up. Then she was pregnant again with twins and had lost those twins. And then she had me when she was 16 going on 17. And she did not have her mother. Her father was not around. Her father was in the same vicinity, but he had his own family because she was a product from an affair. So she didn't fit there either. So with her, and I just want to give you guys some perspective, because with her growing up as a woman, having a child early, not having been nurtured or cared for or had any kind of example, she had to learn on the go, and she had to be witty. She also she self medicated through alcohol and drugs early on. And some of it was just to fit in. Some of it was to connect with people because she didn't feel like she really had a family. Right. But then as she started to form her different connections with people, it doesn't take away the hurt because she never had, there's so much different trauma. I know people are tired of the T words, trauma and toxicity, but, oh, sorry. But the reality is that when someone deals with a lot of trauma and they have different, and they have different experiences that will impact how they parent their children. So again, my mother thinking at 12, having a baby at 12, going on 13. Her birthday is June 24th. I think she had my brother, a month after she turned 13. And again, just a lot of different things. There was no kind of counseling. There was no kind of parental figure that could really help her at some point, because at some point she did not respect authority or really see them as that. And so that is a tough thing to then be open to someone coming in and helping you and giving you a different exposure. So when she had me, she definitely did not want to lose me, because she had lost her first 3 kids in her mind. Right. And so with me, even though she did not know how to parent me, and she did not know how to really pour into me, she did what she could. But at the same time, we had, as I grew up, we had to come together and figure out how that was going to work out. And I'm skipping over some pieces because I have to kind of move us along, but I will share that my overall healthy exposure mainly came from my who I thought was my biological father, Tommy Rain. That's my first bonus dad. I introduced him in the book and share some more information about him. But he was my first, I would say, healthy exposure to what I felt like parenting was and love was. And it mainly had to do with me being able to be a kid. I was able to be a kid when in his presence. I was able to laugh and not have the responsibility or the worry that came with with my time with my mom. I realized that she went through some things, but that is where it started. My healthy exposure started. And some of the glimpses that my mom would learn along the way and share with me along the way gave me a positive experience as well. Like I said, her honesty, I love her for that. Although, again, people may not agree with, and sometimes I don't agree with everything she exposed me to, but I will say I can, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And she also challenged me to have conversations about topics that were, again, adult topics. A lot of times, like how we're going to pay rent, how we're going to avoid getting our lights cut off, who we're supposed to pay at what time, even conversations between her and her boyfriends and things of that nature. Again, I don't agree with some of the conversations, but I will tell you, I'm very keen on how to have crucial conversations now as an adult. All right. So that my healthy exposure is a combination primarily coming from Tommy, and then all of the other, what I say, co-parent partners. I call them co-parent partners in the book. They're not necessarily the parent, biological parent. They may be a stepmother or father, an auntie, an uncle, a grandmother, a goddad, a godmom. But I also had really good healthy exposure from a myriad of different people. And maybe I'll take some time to share those individuals as well, and more about that. But let me get to the unhealthy. So, look, well, first, anybody else had any healthy experience or healthy exposure to parenting? I know I shared that, but we have some new people on here. Healthy exposure. And it may be mixed with a little trauma, right? Right. Like Netta saying, trauma is real. Trauma is very real. I think, let me read this out loud. Netta, that's good. I think that for my grandkids, exposure to unhealthy, but it's not always healthy. Yes, I agree. My dad was a mixture of both healthy and unhealthy. Come on. Okay. Hey. Oh, hey, Nelly. Yes. So I don't know how to go back now. So yeah, so the pieces, what I would, and this is just I read your comment again, Netta. This is just something to ponder that might help even with the unhealthy exposure that your grandkids may have with their parents, some of the times it helped me when I was at a very tough space with my mom, having people around me that actually brought out something that was a little more positive about her did give me something to think about. And so again, not disregarding that that she was out of order and that she was, definitely needing to work on some things, because you don't want to sugarcoat things, but there's something typically that they love about the person, even in their trauma, even in their toxicity. And so that was helpful for me around. I know I was around you and a lot of our cousins, and some of the times I probably will want to say something out of line about about my mom, but you guys would never allow me to have too much of an attitude. You would say, well, that's your mom, Shay, and she'll fight the world for you. You guys would call out something that did make me realize that not everything was bad. All right. So my unhealthy exposure. And so here I will share one story or one experience that I highlight in the book, and it really has to do with I don't know what I want to call this person, because I know I can't say the person's name, because I know anybody in Seattle would probably recognize this person. I don't know if I'm gonna call him. I'm trying to not call him anybody's name either. Oh, I said Judas. Yeah, we said Judas. We're gonna call him Judas for obvious reasons. All right. So my unhealthy exposure to parenting really wasn't really what do I want to say? Wasn't really all my mom, right? I would say that initially I saw pieces of my mom that definitely wasn't healthy parenting, but her decision to actually date Judas was the worst exposure I had to parenting. And so this man, which was her boyfriend, he was definitely a man that was arrogant. He was he was a man that did not have a job. He and if you know me, I'm not a materialistic person. I'm all about character, but there's something about wanting to be the man of the house and be an authority figure and want to be respected in a certain way, but don't contribute anything. He did not contribute anything but a lot of chaos. And so once I experienced him, it actually made me question all parents, all adults, especially men. Even though I had positive exposure to my bonus dads, when Judas came into my life, he gave me a negative experience of being parented, and the way that he interacted with my mom as well also made it very, very tough. And so some of his characteristics was that, again, he was arrogant. He was an alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic as well, but he was a raging alcoholic. He just some examples of what I would see is I would see him and my mom and other adults having a good time, conversing, having just a great time, but in the middle of the conversation, he would slap my mom. I saw him I thought they were having a good time. I remember one time we were in Seattle, Washington. That's where I grew up, not too far off from Martin Luther King Way by Franklin High School. This is how much you know when something impacts you. You know the details of things. And they were all having a great time. And so as a kid, again, I'm more of a jovial. I love people to have a good time. I thought they were having a good time until he hit my mom in the face with a cowboy boot, right in the middle of her face. Blood was everywhere. And everybody in there was it was mostly women, not a lot of men were in there. But the men were trying to tell him to calm down, but no one actually helped her. And I saw her shrink back. And again, as my parent, as my covering as someone that actually I felt could protect me, to see that she couldn't protect herself was hard for me. It was hard for me. And then from that point, I started to feel like she may need my protection. And so in that particular instance, it started me on this way of thinking, and it gave me a lot of anxiety as a child. And so I didn't really trust when adults would get together and they would have a good time. I didn't trust that it wouldn't turn into something chaotic. I thought that they may be laughing today or they may be laughing right now, but something's going to happen. Every time I saw alcohol or drug, I didn't see a lot of drugs, I'll be honest and say that initially, but I thought I never could really get settled. But when he hit my mom in the face with the boot, there was nothing we could do. They locked him in a bathroom, but he was still trying to come after her. So we ran, and I helped her get on the city bus. And we were on the bus. Her face was bloody and bleeding. And you guys have to excuse me if I get emotional. But I will say this. It was that moment that I had decided that even though I was a child, it was important for me to grow up, because I needed to help her. And so that kind of exposure steals and robs a child from the joy of being a child, because I was never comfortable. I never felt really comfortable being a child, because I needed to stay on alert. Sorry. And so that unhealthy exposure in that instance put me in a position to where I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to leave her by herself. So I mentioned this in the book. I didn't learn how to read until I was in 4th grade, because I went to so many different schools because I didn't meet the requirement. I was not there enough to actually stay, to actually get acclimated, to learn a lot of different things. I did finally have one teacher. It was a Black teacher, and her name was Mrs. Thomas. And she threatened my mom to call CPS if I wasn't at school every day, for her to help me, which was great. I'm grateful for that. But even with Mrs. Thomas threatening my mom, that was a concern for me, because if she were to call CPS and take me away from my mom, who was going to take care of my mom? Who was going to protect her? Who was going to be there for her? And so I then shut adults out, because if I didn't trust you, because then you may be a threat to my mom and me. You may be a threat to us staying connected. And so that was important. Give me 1 second. Can you hand me this charger? So that's important to highlight. I think I need to charge it up here. Sorry, y'all. I told y'all I'm not really that savvy with this kind of stuff. So I'm not always equipped with everything, but we'll see if this works. Yes. Okay, perfect. All right. So I share that to say that unhealthy exposure to parenting impacts us in so many different ways. So I again had first a good healthy exposure to a certain degree. Obviously, I had my mom's situation, but I had other people that gave me some healthy exposure. And then we had this period of time where I was with another adult figure, a man who my mom stayed with for quite a long time, that actually let me see here, that actually made it hard for us to move forward. Let me see here. These new age kids, CPS. Listen, Demetrius, I don't understand why these new age kids think that CPS is a vacation, because that is absolutely ridiculous. It is, because listen, at least when I was with my mom, even though she wasn't there sometimes, and even though she would still be with Judas and do what she needed to do with him, she would drop me off at my family's house. And at least I knew I was cared for. Other places I didn't trust. I think I know I went to CPS one time, I can remember, and I'll just leave. I actually share that in the book about one of my bonus dads, how he actually came and got me from CPS, which is a crazy story. I'll share that with you guys later. But CPS and actually confiding in other adults made me nervous, which is it's not good exposure for kids to not be able to trust adults, especially when you need help. A lot of times I needed help. A lot of times my mom needed help. But I was afraid to actually leverage those resources and connect with anyone, because I didn't know what would happen if someone really came to our aid. And so I will share, I won't share too much, but I will share that the guy and I, Judas, we came to a pivotal point where I really thought I was going to take him out the game. And as a child, in my head, I felt like I was going to kill him, because that was what my intention was. And police were involved in everything, a lot of different things. I share more in the book, but I would say that it was only in that moment that my mom saw that I really was about to find a way to kill him. In my head, I felt like it was I was protecting us, because he kept coming back. She would never press charges. She would never show up. And it almost created a huge amount of resentment and disregard in myself for my mom, because I didn't understand why I was willing to go as far to protect us, but she was not. But it was confusing for me, because if anybody else would have said anything about me or did anything to me, my mom would actually tear the whole place up. But in this instance, she wouldn't. It confused me. And so actually seeing adults be inconsistent in times that are critical was a confusing space for me. And it made me give a lot of adults the side eye. And I was very untrusting. And so that not only creeped into my my adulthood, right? Of course, I shared that all of that unhealthy exposure with my mom and her boyfriend. Thank goodness I did not actually follow through with actually doing any harm to Judas, because the police again really stopped me. In addition to the fact that my mom decided that she was not going to get back with him after that, but I think she knew if I had another opportunity, our stories would be different. And so I hadn't seen him again since then, and I believe I was in 4th or 5th grade, but it impacted me from then on out. So the way I conversed with adults, the way I interacted with different authority figures was definitely different than maybe my peers or people my age, only because I had to do things differently. And so balancing that out in relationships was tough for me, because I had to start acknowledging some things. I had to start healing from some things. And that started back with my mom. And so me moving to Texas after I got out of high school was definitely important, because I had to understand the dynamics between my mom and how it impacted how I viewed and interacted with other people, even in relationships with men and different friendships and things of that nature. Again, I was not that trusting of people. So being clear on your unhealthy and healthy exposure to relationships are important. It's important in your acknowledgement process. It's important in your healing process, because once I was able to start going through counseling, start actually talking about things, I was able to pull out what are some of those healthy exposure experiences I had with parenting, whether it was through a bonus parent or an aunt or I'll just say bonus parent, all of them, aunts, godparents, cousins, whoever poured into me. Sitting down and talking through that helped me to really see what characteristics in their parenting style that I wanted to adopt. And then actually sitting down, and as well as my mom, what I wanted to take away from what we had experienced together. But then also sitting down and looking through the negative experiences, or unhealthy, I should say, experiences, was also important, because sometimes when you don't acknowledge it, you just repeat it. And then when you just repeat it, then you end up just saying, sorry, I didn't know, just like your parents did to you. So it's important to really sit back, reflect, and really take time to go through what your story and your exposure is, in order to be more intentional about how you want to parent, especially if it was something that, again, helped you, or it was something that hindered you. And so those are that's something that I would say is going to be important for us as we continue our conversation. I would say also that it's important to have conversations with the individuals that were instrumental in your growth process. So again, I was able to speak to my mom about these things before she passed, and we worked through some of the things she agreed with, and some of the things she didn't. But at the end of the day, we both have our own vantage point and our own experiences, but our relationship was important to us. And so it was important for us to really go through this same exercise in more depth, and then start to really acknowledge things that we could have been done better, which my mom did, and the things that she didn't know, and she didn't even know how to do better, and me to be open to that, and be forgiving of that, and then me to also turn around and have a similar relationship with my kids. When I say similar, meaning give them a safe space to tell me when I'm creating an experience that is not healthy, right? Because I can't see myself from an outside perspective. None of us can. That's why we're supposed to do life together. All right, so let me ask a question. What are some ways that you guys have acknowledged either things that healthy experiences that have happened in your life as it relates to parenting, or unhealthy? How have you acknowledged or healed from it, or tried to? Do you guys have any lessons learned or best practices that you could share? Yes. Look, Nikki, the bonus village is real. I am so grateful. When they say it takes a village, I am so grateful for the village in different places and different spaces. Any best practices anyone can share that helps with either the acknowledgement of healthy or unhealthy exposure to parenting, or lessons learned? Y'all know I'm still getting used to this. I don't know how many seconds I should let it go. Well, I know somebody's out there healing and acknowledging. So we have the question up here. What are some ways that you have healed from your healthy or unhealthy exposure to parenting? Healed and acknowledged. So acknowledging, maybe just talking about it. Healing may still be in progress. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I don't see anybody saying anything just yet. It may be coming through in progress. All right, Nikki. Listen, I'm still in progress too. I'm with you. But it's about being intentional. That's why I'm asking you guys, what are some ways, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's journaling. I don't know. Everybody has their own way. I'm an extrovert, so I have to get things out. And I really love to do it with a person that can be a sounding board, because sometimes they help me. They help me to really see things that I can't see. Okay, Toya, I had to have a heart to heart with my dad. I told him everything about how I felt growing up and how his actions impacted me. Absolutely. And sometimes parents, they're not ready for that kind of real talk conversation. And sometimes you may need to give them time to like really process what you want to share, because just because you're ready to talk about something may not be, they may not be in the same space, but you can share with them that you would like to talk about it and you would love for them to engage or hear you out. And then if they need to take a pause, that's fine as well. Had to go to counseling? Absolutely. Still working on sharing things with my parents? Absolutely. Therapy. I know a lot of people aren't big on therapy, but again, if you can just, I don't know what will make us really feel better about it. Call it something else. Call it a sounding board. You need something to actually have a place to share, and then have someone to challenge perspective or help you actually explore perspective. Whatever floats your boat. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. All right. So I know we've been here for some time. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but we'll continue these types of conversations. Hopefully, let's see, Crystal, what I noticed, at least in my experiences, they're better at grandparenting. Yeah, this is so true, right? I've heard a lot of people say that about grandparents. I will say, because I should put a post out there. I'm looking for grandparents, right? Because I really haven't had a grandparent. Well, I have. I will say I had one. Let me back up and check myself. Peggy, who is my bonus grandmother, she was probably the only grandparent that I've experienced. But yeah, grandparents, I've heard from children that their parents are better at grandparenting than parenting, from their perspective. All right. Well, again, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I just want to, again, start these conversations so that we can dive into these topics. I don't want to be the only one speaking. I will be asking someone to come on to have this conversation with me next week. We'll talk about parentification, because really this week was kind of like an impromptu. I'm supposed to do them for every first and third Tuesdays. So really the first Tuesday is not until next Tuesday, but whatever. We just got started early. All right. And so, again, if you haven't gotten the book, you can definitely go to Amazon and get it. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, an array of places. But I will say this, Amazon is the only one that has the audio book available. All right. And so if you want to know more about that story where you guys are going to shoot, I would have been like Akon, locked up, they won't let me out. If it really went deeper into into where I was going somewhere dark. Thank goodness I was brought back to the light. All right, so I'm here with you guys now, and I'm looking forward to talking more to you guys about these topics. We'll get into more and more topics. If you have topics you would like to discuss, please let me know. I will definitely keep you posted on whatever the topic is prior to us connecting. Yeah, I will chat with you guys next week. Y'all have a blessed one. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully some of the information shared is helpful to you. And thank you all for allowing me to have my emotional moment. And not feel like I have to apologize for them, because I feel they have to happen when they have to happen. And I'll get back to my joyful self after a while, but I like emotions to flow as they should. All right. Y'all be blessed. And I'll chat with you later. Let's see. You know, I messed up trying to log off last time, so hopefully I get it. Bye.
Okay, you got it.